welcome to Daily Debrief from People's Dispatch. I'm Pragya and today we look at a UNHRC report on Israel and a vote on Israeli settlers. How the WHO has hurt healthcare, and in sports, the Blatter and Platini trial is set to begin on Wednesday in Switzerland. An independent United Nations Human Rights Commission has said stopping Israeli occupation is essential to end the Palestine conflict. The commission was set up last year. It has said the region's tensions and instability are because of the occupation of Palestinian territory and discrimination against Palestinians. Meanwhile, two members of the coalition in the Knesset have voted against a law that gives Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank the same rights as citizens in Israel. Abdul from People's Dispatch will tell us more about both these developments. Abdul, the first question that comes to mind is, will there be accountability as a result of this UN report? What happens to the Commission report now?
Well, when it comes to Israel, we cannot expect accountability. This UNHRC report which you are referring to, Israel has not cooperated with its inquiry process, and because of that, it has not even allowed the commissioner to visit occupied territories or Israel. So whatever evidences he gathered from Jordan or from other places. Okay. So you can understand when it did not cooperate with the inquiry, of course the report, it is not going to cooperate. And the fate of the report by and large will be the same as the fate of all other UN reports earlier or the UN resolutions earlier. The only thing which was different in this report, which was not the case in the earlier reports, UN reports, is that this time it was mandated by the UNHRC in a proper voting. The resolution was voted upon and it has mandate all across the historical Palestine. It means both the occupied territories and the Israel, quote-unquote, Israel proper. Okay. And what it says is, I think, is well known already that the Israel has no intention of creating a Palestinian state, letting its occupied territories go because of the expansion of the settlements, because of the growth of land grab in the occupied territories, because of the quote-unquote special rights which is given to the settlers, which you are also referring. All these policies which Israel is following are indicating in a way that there is no intention in the ruling classes within Israel that they are looking forward to a two-state solution in future. It means that we have to think about the solution of Palestine or in a new format. That's what it is hinting at. But of course, it does not go into the details of it. The report will be discussed next week in the UNHRC formal meeting, and hopefully after the discussion there will be a resolution about it. But since when it comes to holding countries like Israel accountable, the consent of United States becomes very important, given the larger weight it has had in international politics, and US has stopped participating in UNHRC meetings and discussions since 2018, claiming that it is biased body and so on and so forth. So given all these circumstances, I think it will be too much to expect some accountability. But of course, it basically places the record once again that what is the condition of the occupied territories and what is Israel is doing in those regions. Yeah.
Right, Abdul. So, there's also been a vote in the Knesset where two members of the coalition have voted against the emergency law. Can you tell us what the implications of this are?
If you ask any expert on Israeli politics, this means that the government of Naftali Bennett has lost majority, and the opposition led by Benjamin Netanyahu may place a vote in the parliament, in the Knesset, about fresh elections or a vote of confidence, either ways, which can lead to formation of a new government or new elections. Whether this will actually happen or not, we are not sure about it, because it is also issue-based voting. On this particular issue, there are members of Naftali Bennett-led coalition which are opposed to the expansion of settlements and giving those settlements equal right as any Israeli citizenship. That basically proves that there is a kind of discriminatory apartheid system of governance within Israel, because the law provides a special right to settlers, which are illegal in international law, but it does not provide the same rights to the 2.53 million Palestinians who are living in those territories. So it's a discriminatory law. It goes against the idea of equal rights, and it basically reiterates the idea of apartheid state. It basically re-emphasizes the image of Israel as an apartheid state, which has been indicated by various human rights organizations in the last few years. So this is an issue-based voting, if you look at it, in which Arab parties and the Marits are opposed to the expansion of settlements, providing them equal rights. I'm surprised that some of them voted in favor of the law because they wanted to save the governments. That's the kind of, you can say, the complexity of the situation. Those who were in favor of this law, extending the Israel citizenship law to the illegal settlers, they voted against the law. So it basically is the issue which determined the voting at this time. It may change when the a real vote of confidence is placed in the Israeli parliament, and those two members who voted against this law may vote in favor of the government. So given that complexity, it is not very sure what will be the repercussion.
All right, Abdul, thanks very much for that update. The World Health Organization highlighted June 7, World Food Safety Day, with the theme Safer Food, Better Health. But WHO Watch reports by People's Health Movement show food issues are discussed, but without addressing the impact of big food or the effects of alcohol on health. There is little conversation on effective steps against the packaged food industry or the alcohol industry, for example. There is also a need to address problems in the global food system to keep the risk of major non-communicable diseases at bay. We go to Anna from People's Health Movement for more details. Hi Anna, welcome to the show. Nice to see you again. Anna, with the WHO, we've always seen people raise issues about the kind of concerns they raise and they don't raise. What are the primary issues with how the WHO is going about its work?
Yes, and so we have spoken about this here also a couple of times already. And there have been some recent reports about the corporate capture of the WHO and how the industry is actually investing a lot of money into influencing government positions inside the WHO. And so, not necessarily the exact results of these reports, but something very similar we have had the chance to see during the World Health Assembly, which took place in Geneva at the end of May. And one of the topics where this came through the most is the one that had a lot to do with the food industry and with food systems, and how food systems and the industry actually impact people's health. And one of the most obvious things is non-communicable diseases, because we're always hearing about how alcohol is bad for health and how unhealthy food is causing a whole pandemic of obesity in the world. But still, we are seeing that these industries are having their say at the WHO in an indirect way. So that's something that's apparently not going to stop so soon. Also, judging from the discussions that have taken place at the WHO, sorry. And so, although these issues have been raised by several country delegations who have said that the food industry and the way that they are impacting policy making is harmful for people's health, there has been no strong stance taken by the member states of the WHO at this time, and that's quite worrying, because what we do need now is a stand by the countries and backed by the WHO in something that would allow them also to counter the industry at national level. Right. We have seen, and several examples have been quoted from countries which have been, manipulated in a way, or led to making decisions counter to public health advice, which deals with the labeling of unhealthy food, of marketing of unhealthy food and alcohol. And once they were negotiating to access the WTO or to sign trade agreements, they have been pressured to give up on those good public health measures and policies that they were about to implement, and to back off. So just to give more space to the industry in the marketing, give them a seat at the table when policy is being discussed. And this has not been addressed adequately by the World Health Assembly this time.
Okay, Anna, people do keep raising their voice from time to time. What kind of space is the WHO able to provide them?
The WHO does give room for countries to speak up, for member states to articulate what they want to say. But unfortunately, the richer countries, of course, get more space because they have bigger delegations, they have more resources to prepare. And at the end of the day, of course, they get all these feeds by the industry who's telling them what to say and what to advocate for. So unfortunately, when these kind of things are concerned, the very good stances that are being highlighted, that the industry is having undue influence on national policy and putting pressure on WHO not to pass strong decisions and resolutions which would allow countries to oppose the industry. These interventions are often overshadowed by those, by the US, who has a very pro-industry stance, is a very strong advocate of what we call multi-stakeholderism. Multi-stakeholderism is actually a mask of giving the industry a seat in multilateral bodies, which should be representing people's interests to member states' interests. So unfortunately, this was also the case in Geneva this time. What has been heard is that several delegations, and most prominently the US, have said that the WHO is overstepping its mandate when it talks and when it wants to interfere with marketing practices, because this is not something that a technical UN body which is dedicated to health should be doing.
Is that a valid argument to say that it is overstepping?
Well, no, of course not. From a very reasonable point of view, the WHO is of course taking measures, and it wants to address people's health, and this has a lot to do with how the industry is behaving. And we have seen instances in the past where the WHO has either passed on its own or in cooperation with other UN agencies, mechanisms that help to push back marketing measures by tobacco industry, by also companies producing breast milk substitutes. So, and by doing this, it's not overstepping its mandate. It's of course fulfilling its mandate in the full sense of the term. So, right. When this kind of flashback comes to the WHO, it's industry speak. It's not something that actually talks about the mandate of the agency.
Anna, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks.
On Wednesday, hearings began in a Switzerland court into fraud, forgery and other charges against former FIFA chief Joseph Blatter and former UEFA chief Michel Platini. They were at the top of the game until Platini was charged with taking illegal payments of more than $2 million from Blatter. Platini is charged with submitting a fictitious invoice to FIFA. The investigation began in 2015 and ended last year. Both had been banned from the sport. Their years to stay away from football were later reduced. We'll go to Siddhant Ane for more details on this case. Hi, Siddhant. Thanks for joining us. So, Siddhant, what is it that Blatter and Platini really did? What are the charges against them?
This specific case, Pragya, is being looked at by the Swiss Attorney General's office. The charges are being leveled by them. It involves a specific payment, what it has called an unlawful payment of Swiss francs 2 million, which is approximately the same in US dollar value, made in 2011. So essentially, the charges are of corruption, fraud, embezzlement, and such like. So payments that were not due to either of these parties received them, and yeah, essentially, that is the.
Okay, and what is the significance of this case to sport in general?
I don't know what to sport in general, but to this sport, it has some significance. I guess the first most important thing will be, depending on how the trial goes, if found guilty, there is a potential for jail term. The case is being looked at by a 3-judge bench in a federal criminal court in Switzerland. And Sepp, Blatter and Platini arrived for the 2-week trial today, both looking quite cheerful and confident. And in fact, Blatter said, if I didn't feel confident on the first day of a 14-day trial, it would be really bad. So perhaps indicating how they feel it will go. If it goes against them and they are eventually sentenced by this court to any sort of jail time, it'll be a rare and historic occasion when a powerful, rich white man actually serves jail time for this kind of financial fraud. Most likely, I think they are confident that because the FIFA investigation has kind of concluded, their careers as far as FIFA politicians are concerned are over. Blatter ruled FIFA for a long time, and Platini was meant to be his successor in that role. Now, all of that has been scuttled by the 2015 FIFA investigation, which separately, in any case, banned these two for a 6-year period. So effectively, and the world of football politics has also moved on. Last month, for example, the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, was in Asia for a meeting of the AFC, the Asian football playing countries, where he was assured of the support, a block vote from the Asian countries supporting his re-election. So in terms of the narrative, I think Blatter and Platini have already lost out. Platini was once considered one of the greatest European football players, midfielders himself. So he's all of that respect that comes with being great on the pitch has completely been lost. The reputations no longer sort of hold any weight. So I think they feel, as well as the courts might feel, or how this might result, the media as well, that that there's not much to gain or lose from this trial unless the judges overwhelmingly kind of make it a point to I don't know, make some sort of exemplary punishment in this case, which is highly unlikely, especially given Blatter's age at this point. And I guess the last part is that the World Cup is coming up in Qatar, and the wider context of these narratives, Blatter and that company are still pushing the narratives of bribery involved in the awarding of rights to Russia and to Qatar, as though it's some kind of unique situation in how dealings are done in these sports bodies, who host tournaments and all of those things. Because at the end of the day, it's a group of very few men who control who these multi-billion-dollar events are awarded to. So I don't think any of those allegations are going to be looked at very seriously. And so narrative victory for the new guys. Politics has moved on, and not too much to really, I think, focus on this trial. But there may be a surprise in store. June 22nd is when the trial ends.
All right. Thanks a lot for that update, Siddhant. And that is all we have for today. Thank you for watching Daily Debrief. Please come back to us tomorrow and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And for more updates and analysis from around the world, visit peoplesdispatch.org. you.